You feel it now heat. It starts in the blood and climbs your spine like a prophecy. Most people call it lust. Marcus Aurelius called it wildfire. Modern labs call it dopamine spiked at 200%. Whatever the name, it can crown or consume you. Lust fuels legends, but only if you learn to aim the blaze before it burns the map of your life. The clock is already ticking. Neurons are writing contracts your reason hasn't read. Will you sign blindly, or will you forge the ink? You think you're in control. You think your mind makes the first move. But by the time your awareness blinks, your body has already signed a contract you didn't read. Within 150 milliseconds of seeing her, yes, her, your amygdala lights up like a match struck in a coal mine. Dopamine surges. Testosterone whispers that this is your moment. Your pupils dilate. Your breath shifts. You haven't said a word, but the script is already in motion. This is not romance. This is a biological ambush. It's the same timeline, weaponized by advertisers, clickbait thumbnails, perfume brands, and political campaigns. One glance, one flash of skin, one memory laced with scent, light, or soundtrack, and you're already back in the loop. Not because you chose it, but because your nervous system preloaded it, like malware hiding in the code. A microsecond before thought, the body leaps. That's the paradox, that's the trap. Science calls it Pavlovian pairing. Pair a stimulus with desire often enough, and your brain rewires reality around it. Maybe it's the pattern on kitchen tiles where you had your first kiss. Maybe it's a hoodie that smells like someone you lost. Maybe it's 3 a.m. and Spotify autoplay spins a certain song, and suddenly you're texting someone you swore you deleted. It's not you. Not yet. It's the machine underneath you, firing on instincts calibrated 10,000 years ago, when genes didn't care if you were spiritually aligned, just whether your seed could survive frost. Most men never see the moment happening, because the moment happens before seeing begins. And so, here's the first mantra. Lust fuels legends, because it does. Every war, every invention, every revolution, somewhere beneath it pulsed the raw charge of attraction. But energy, by itself, is not direction. A blown engine is still a fire, just uncontained. So let's get precise. When you scroll Instagram, when you smell vanilla lotion in an elevator, when a glance lingers too long across a crowded subway, the neurochemistry doesn't ask permission. It just floods the system. Dopamine, norepinephrine, and if you follow that jolt unconsciously, you end up chasing phantoms, chasing women, chasing likes, chasing what you think fulfillment must feel like, because you once felt it for half a second in middle school. That's not desire. That's code, and the code is older than you. Older than culture, older than shame or poetry or romantic dinner dates. It's the firmware, etched into your bones. But you are not the code. You are the one who can see the code. That 1 second, that half a breath between stimulus and story is your entry point. It's the ignition, the moment you get to decide whether to drive or to be driven. Because if you don't take the wheel, the engine doesn't care. It'll burn rubber until the tires shred and the brakes fail. It'll drive you into decisions you regret, relationships that hollow you out, cycles that mimic intimacy, but never give you rest. So ask yourself, if your engine revs without a driver, where will it crash? And more importantly, who benefits from you never asking that question? Dopamine is a dealer that always smiles first. You feel the handshake in your chest before your mind can count the chips. Anticipation alone, just the idea of her lips, the possibility hidden in a notification bubble, spikes dopamine higher than the kiss ever will. Robert Sapolsky calls this the reward prediction error. The brain fires hardest at the promise, not the payoff. Translation: you're wired to chase futures, not cherish presents. It isn't dysfunction. It's designed. At climax, the chemistry shifts. PET scans show dopamine peaks collapsing while endogenous opioids flood receptors like champagne poured over hot circuitry. The wave is glorious and gone. Minutes later, dopamine drops below baseline. That dip, not morality, births guilt. It's withdrawal disguised as conscience, biology's invoice for services rendered. The cycle is self-funding. Crash breeds craving, craving outshines memory, and you reload the feed. Text the ex, swipe the stranger. The brain's casino never closes. Princeton researchers strapped participants to EEG caps and piped erotic clips at random intervals. Every time skin appeared on screen, frontal lobe beta waves flatlined, the region controlling judgment, forecasting, and maybe this isn't a genius idea, switch to power save mode. The limbic system hijacked the mic, yelling, spin. All tokens now, tomorrow doesn't exist. Moments later, participants couldn't recall basic details about scenes they'd watched. Focus narrowed to flashpoints of flesh. Everything else faded like scenery outside a racing car. Orgasm chemistry, examined molecule by molecule, resembles a microdose of cocaine. Dopamine up 200%, nucleus accumbens roaring, prefrontal cortex muffled. Unlike cocaine, climax brings a prolactin surge, nature's built-in sedative that whispers nap time. But the dealer still lurks. Once dopamine resets, the prediction engine scans for the next bid. You promised yourself just tonight? The algorithm etched that pattern, ready to trigger at the faintest echo of boredom. Control the fire. Write it. Somewhere your scrolling thumb will see. On the lock screen, on a sticky note covering your webcam. Inside the cover of the notebook you pretend you'll start tomorrow. The mantra isn't a bridle, it's a steering wheel. Fire refuses cages but obeys channels. Forge, kill, rocket engine. Your task is direction, not denial. Consider the gambler who wins early. Initial jackpots aren't blessings, they're hooks. Neural models show that unpredictable payouts produce the steepest dopamine climbs. Pornhub's copy Vegas math, variable video lengths, randomized thumbnail rotations, endless you might also like. Each novelty hit, each unexpected angle, is a spinning reel promising something rarer still. By design, enough never arrives. Only the next maybe. Break the loop by naming it. Neuroscientist Judson Brewer teaches urge surfing. Label the craving, thinking, fantasy clip. Feel it crest like a wave, watch it fall. MRI scans reveal the simple act of naming re-engages the prefrontal cortex. Blood flow returns to the seat of choice. A 3-second verbal tag can tilt the chemical tug-of-war back toward reason. Brain's casino pays in fantasies, but casinos collapse when players walk out. Close the tab and the dealer follows you into memory. Pressing. Ships into your palm, just one more spin. That's chemistry writing sequel after sequel. Convinced you'll sign. Every pause you insert, every breath counted to 8. Every cold shower or sprint or page of journaling is a line edit on that script. Enough edits and the narrative shifts. Lust becomes voltage for books half written, weights half lifted, relationships half lived. The fire that once threatened to scorch the map begins to light the tunnel instead. How long will you let chemistry write the script? Nikola Tesla used Manhattan nights like a forge. He rented no lovers, claiming physical abstinence sharpened currents in his mind. Friends found him pacing Hotel New Yorker corridors, palms sparking static as he rehearsed inventions that would electrify whole continents. In letters he confessed the trade-off. Desire transmuted into design, heat redirected from skin to circuitry. Lust fuels legends if you can reroute the voltage. 2,000 years earlier, Roman gladiators practiced the same alchemy. Arena physicians tracked an odd pattern. Fighters who abstained from sex for 3 days swung heavier blades and bled less when cut. Their trainers called it incubare, ignon, incubating fire. Today, endocrinologists confirm the folklore. Short-term. Celibacy spikes testosterone up to 45%, peaking at the 70-hour mark, then tapering. The body, denied its usual outlet, converts pressure into anaerobic power. For a man facing steel and sand, that marginal edge could cheat death. Modern Olympians echo the ritual. In Rio, several national teams instituted red zone bans. During finals week, no dating apps, no late-night hotel flirtations, phones collected at curfew. Sports scientists monitored cortisol. Levels dropped, recovery times tightened, lactic thresholds inched higher. Controlled deprivation isn't moral posturing. It's hormetic stress, small doses of strain that coax systems into overcompensation. Like muscles torn to grow stronger, libido restrained becomes concentrate, ready for purposeful ignition. Picture an hourglass filled with molten gold instead of sand. Every second, droplets slip from the upper bulb, cooling as they fall. Left. Unchecked, the reservoir empties into trivial channels, scrolls, fantasies, casual leaks that glaze dopamine receptors but glaze nothing tangible. Tip the glass midway and the melt pools at the neck, pressure mounting, temperature rising. It bottleneck is chosen abstinence, a moment when want collects, thickens, and searches for another exit. Creativity, sprint intervals, code sprints, negotiation tables, any arena demanding voltage. But handle the glass carelessly, and it shatters. Suppress too long, and the pressure detonates in reckless texts at 2 a.m. in browser history's view. Clear before dawn, in relationships scorched for a single night's release. The art is rotation, not rupture, letting the hourglass flow into goals before it overflows into chaos. Sports. Psychologist Dr. Julie Owen runs Drive Transmutation. Labs for UFC fighters. Athletes arrive edgy from mandated abstinence. She straps them to EMG monitors and channels the agitation into visualization drills, seeing every punch landed, every takedown escaped. Fight night analytics reveal striking accuracy up 5%, takedown defense up 7%. Owen calls libido liquid laser diffuse if spilled, lethal if focused. Lust fuels legends. The mantra returns with heavier bass now. You've seen its echoes through alternating centuries of sand and neon. Tesla's dynamos, gladiatorial swords, gold medals, they glimmer with recycled yearning. Yet each success, story shadows a cautionary tale. Inventors burned by obsession, warriors undone by tavern nights, athletes busted in hotel scandals hours before a final. Time keeps draining the upper bulb. The question is never whether the glass will empty, only where its contents will settle. Every breath you take moves grains you can't see. Ignore them, and they pave neural ruts toward compulsive loops. Tilt them with intent, and they smelt. Into architecture books, businesses, bodies tempered for resilience. Suspense clings like heat above the forge. Can you weaponize want without wounding yourself? Power turns into prison the moment novelty starts demanding tribute. Open any major porn hub and watch the bait mutate in real time. Every hour, thousands of thumbnails are A/B tested, contrast, nudged, angle tweaked, skin tone warmed, like Wall Street quants shaving microseconds off trade latency. A 1% rise in click-through equals millions in ad revenue, so the interface never stops sharpening its hooks. It's the same optimization loop that high-frequency traders use, except the commodity isn't equities. It's your attention, and your neurochemistry foots the bill. Clinical researchers at Cambridge tracked heavy-use consumers for 60 days. fMRI scans showed a 15% drop in dopamine D2 receptor availability, identical to early cocaine. Habituation. Translation: receptors down-regulate when hammered by 4K novelty, forcing bigger hits to reach the same spark. Users report escalation, softcore to hardcore, vanilla to kink, human partners to AI-generated avatars. Each step up the ladder feels like exploration. In reality, it's compensation for dampened circuitry. Then comes the hidden invoice. Urology clinics now diagnose porn-induced erectile dysfunction in men under 25, a demographic once considered bulletproof. Blood flow is fine. Desire is not. Real partners can't compete with the algorithm's buffet of edits, angles, and endless novelty. When dopamine receptors learn to expect fireworks at every frame, candlelight feels like static. Women aren't immune. Psychology Today notes a surge in anorgasmia, linked to compulsive erotica scrolling stories, fanfic, TikTok thirst loops. The pattern is the same: heightened thresholds, muted response, creeping dissatisfaction that spills into dating apps and slowly erodes patience for human pace. Inside this loop, control the fire becomes a lifeline, not a slogan, because the platform is engineered for drift. Autoplay countdowns shrink from 10 seconds to 5. Recommendation carousels read pauses in milliseconds. Haptic VR suits shorten refractory periods by flooding the body with near-continuous novelty. Dopamine spikes stack like waves until the shoreline of satisfaction erodes altogether. Economists would call this diminishing marginal utility. Philosophers call it the hedonic treadmill. Your nervous system calls it survival. Always chase, never rest. And the $100 billion adult industry cashes the delta between what you had and what you suddenly need. Your feed is an arousal algorithm. Can technology be villain and victim at once? Absolutely. Machine learning models don't understand shame. They optimize signals. The more you watch, the more extreme the recommendations. The more extreme, the harder it is to walk away. The system learns from every hesitation and sells that knowledge back to you, wrapped in pixels that look like freedom. There's a reason casinos pump extra oxygen onto gaming floors. Alert players stay longer. Porn sites perform the same trick. Digitally, vivid colors, infinite scroll, and the soft suggestion that exiting the page might cost you the perfect clip, waiting one swipe down. Nobody rings a bell when you've had enough dot, so pause the reel and gauge the balance sheet. Hours exchanged, receptors dulled, relationships taxed, achievements postponed. Ask whether the trade still nets positive ROI, or whether you've become liquidity for someone else's quarterly report. What's the price of limitless pixels? For every tale of conquest forged in redirected desire, there's a quieter chronicle of lives warped by austerity. Total repression may look heroic in highlight reels, yet physiology tallies a subtler cost at Indiana University. Researchers tracked couples who reported 1 to 3 intimate encounters a week. Saliva swabs showed secretory immunoglobulin, your immune system's frontline antibody hovering 30% higher than in abstinent controls. Meanwhile, a Welsh study spanning a decade found men who climaxed 2 to 3 times weekly slashed cardiovascular mortality by half. For women, regular arousal cycles steady estrogen, knit bone density, and keep cortisol from spiking into insomnia. Desire, then, is not a glitch. It's a maintenance app. Shut it down completely, and background processes fail, testosterone dips, dopamine circuits flatten, serotonin dominates, mood grays. Monks offset that risk with meditation-induced endorphins. Most civilians don't. Have Himalayan cave schedules, but swing the pendulum to maximalist indulgence and another ledger appears. We've toured the dopamine troughs, the down-regulated receptors, the partners outgained by pixels. Overstimulation inflates thresholds until real life sounds like music filtered through drywall. That isn't liberation. It's sensory debt. The equilibrium lies between famine and feast throttling, not breaking. Think cruise control on a mountain. Road. Ease off in hairpin curves. Lean in when the straightaway opens. It's calibrated acceleration. Schedule intentional intimacy solo or partnered, then step back, giving receptor space to resensitize. Use cold plunges, fasting windows, or sprint intervals as alternate dopamine faucets, so lust doesn't own the pipeline. Mantras frame the ratio. Lust fuels legends, acknowledge the engine. Control the fire, govern the RPMs. That duet keeps zeal from calcifying into shame or exploding into chaos. Integration isn't compromise. It's synergy. Olympic sprinters pair disciplined celibacy. Phases with timed release days to keep testosterone oscillating within performance range. Entrepreneurs block no-scroll mornings, but reward weekly milestones with date nights unshadowed by guilt. The organism learns rhythm, not repression. Remember, the same neurochemical cocktail that powers obsession can also power resilience. Oxytocin, released through skin-to-skin touch, dampens amygdala alarms, making you braver under pressure. Serotonin from affectionate afterglow stabilizes prefrontal planning. Healthy expressions of lust don't derail ambition. They upholster it. Throttle. Don't throttle off. So weigh the options. Permanent exile from your own biology, or a negotiated treaty where drive pulls the plow you steer. One path risks brittle virtue, the other risks runaway consumption. Both demand oversight, but only one keeps the lights on in your endocrine house. Is desexualizing your brain an escape, or an upgrade? The blueprint moves from theory to trench work. First, a controlled blackout, 24-hour abstention. Midnight to midnight, every erotic filament is cut. No screens, no flirting, no playlist that ever pulsed under candle-lit skin. The phone flips to grayscale. Tabs close like shutters in a coastal storm. By dawn, the nervous system surfaces. Its first pangs, phantom vibrations, rogue fantasies, sudden boredom that feels like emergency. Log each wave. This is reconnaissance, not renunciation. Evening arrives with a desire audit. Open a blank page, draw 2 columns. Trigger, hidden hunger. Write with brutal honesty. Trigger, scrolling bikini reels at lunch. Hidden hunger. Validation that my grind still makes me desirable. Trigger. Late night, just checking text to an ex. Hidden hunger. Reassurance I'm not expendable. Patterns. Sharpen like constellations. Each craving is a proxy voter for a deeper need: belonging, novelty, power, anesthetic. Identify them, and the spell drops a digit of its passcode. Next morning, step into stoic negative visualization. Picture every erotic cue erased from existence. No porn servers, no dating apps, no lingerie ads between stories. Feel the vacuum. Let the panic bloom, then watch it recede. Realize the sky did not crack. You have met absence and survived. That recognition widens prefrontal bandwidth. Cravings lose their monopoly on urgency. Now shock the system with cold plunge hormesis. 3 minutes underwater, colder than 10 degrees Celsius. Capillaries constrict, adrenaline spikes. Dopamine climbs 250% and stays elevated, clean, unlinked to fantasy. Stepping out, every cell vibrates like a tuned string. The brain files a new memory. High reward minus sexual trigger. Repetition of this single intervention rewires receptor expectations, lowering the volume on novelty demands. Anchor the reclaimed. Dopamine to non-sexual quests. Load a barbell and chase a deadlift personal record. Crush a 25-minute Pomodoro coding sprint. Nail 30 new Mandarin flashcards before breakfast. Each victory stamps a neural receipt. Effort-driven reward greater than effortless arousal. Neuroplasticity loves consistency. Feed it for 21 days and synapses redraw supply lines. Afternoon flight to another city. Security lines snake, fluorescent. Lights buzz. A woman ahead adjusts her hair, exposing the exact collarbone angle your archive tags as irresistible. Heat climbs. Pupils widen. The old script starts booting. Mental highlight reels, maybe a bold hello, maybe a hotel lobby drink. Pause. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 8. Whisper inwardly. Lust fuels legends. Control the fire. Feel the prefrontal cortex reboot. Limbic volume drop. Notice details the trance would have deleted. A frayed backpack strap. A boarding pass edge wilted by rain. Empathy displaces conquest. You nod polite respect. Step forward. Present your passport. The blaze bends, does not. Break you. Evening journal. Passport when engine revved, I steered. Tiny triumph. Monumental proof. Momentum germinates in moments measured by millimeters. Maintenance protocol. Weekly dopamine deload. One evening. 0 algorithmic feeds. Cold or breath stressor daily. Choose plunge. Choose sprint hill. Choose Wim Hof cycle. Quarterly. No FAP. Fortnight to strip rust off. Trigger mapping. Monthly desire audit revisions. Cross out patterns solved. Circle those that linger. Each loop tightens mastery. Fire once squandered on pixel smoke now melts procrastination. Forges discipline. Lights corridors unfinished. Remember, abstention is the wrench, not the engine. Journals are mirrors, not maps. The goal is integration energy holstered, safety. Off aimed at targets worthy of recoil. Cravings will ambush again. Boardrooms, weddings, funeral parlors. They always do. But every override rehearses a future where instinct kneels to intention. If you can master this blaze, what empire could ignite beneath your feet? Curiosity dragged you into the circuitry. Fear showed the teeth beneath the sparks. And insight revealed the hidden hand drafting your desires. But none of that matters unless it becomes choice. Choice begins on paper. Download the Will Override Worksheet 10 merciless prompts that pit instinct against intention. Document every trigger, every scroll, every fantasy that hijacks your timeline. Audit it. Annotate it. Pin it where the first ray of morning light humiliates unchecked boxes. Because the sun is your witness, and complacency hates daylight. Work the sheet for 7 days and patterns crystallize. The 11 p.m. loneliness loop. The boredom scroll, the traffic lights, the validation high you chase by refreshing notifications. Your mission is to reroute each reflex into design swap midnight doom scrolls for 10 push-ups. Replace thirst trap laps with language drills. Convert restless Sundays into deep work sprints. Every rewritten line of code frees another watt of attention, courage, or patience you thought you'd lost to algorithms. Remember, lust fuels legends. Control the fire. The worksheet is your map. Discipline supplies the flint. Leave it blank, and autopilot scripts your sequel. Fill it, and you become the author who writes hardware into art.comment. Mask number 1 off. Download your Will Override Worksheet and subscribe if you choose conscious mastery over impulse, because the fire always restarts with tomorrow's dawn again.